We're going to talk strategy a little bit. Strategy in our workouts, in our training, maybe even in competition. Now, somebody asked me, how do we strategize when we're approaching a workout or a certain workout? And my initial thought was, we don't. We're not gaming our training, right? It's not a game, it's our training. So what I thought instead was, let's think about how we can approach training with some strategy, of course, some tactics, so that we can develop better as an athlete. And when we get to our competition, we have a strategy already because we know how it's supposed to feel. So I came up with these 3 simple tools and 3 things that we should think about every time we get to a workout, if this is something that's important to you, if developing as an athlete is important. For most people, however, we're going to be looking at these things as ways to understand how the workout should feel and modifications and what do we do to get the best workout and get the results we want. And the truth is they're the exact same thing. So whether you're going for fitness or you're going for performance here, we are on the same path and we're thinking about the same things as we go. The athlete's mindset works across the board. So number 1, I want you to know your threshold. So there's this thing called threshold training in CrossFit. Threshold training is where we work at or just below our threshold. That means if you're doing barbell thrusters with 95 pounds and you know that every time you do thrusters, you get to that 11th rep and all of a sudden you slow down or you have to drop the bar. So what do? We don't do 11 reps, you do 10. You shake it out, you pick it up, you do another 10. Because if you had done 11, now reps number 10, 9, 8, 7 are going to be harder and they're going to slow down and it's going to get slower. So we find the threshold for every movement and with every weight and work at or just below that threshold. That also might apply to timing of it. So doing a certain number of reps within a certain time frame. This is modifying or varying our intensity. So if you were to do 5 thrusters in 20 seconds, right? 5 and 20. That's relatively slow. Now, if I were to tell you to do 15 thrusters in 20 seconds, you'd be working a lot harder if you use the same weight. If you lower the weight, it wouldn't be working as hard, right? So we're changing the power output and that raises or takes away the intensity. Now, it depends on what happens after that, right? If you have anything else to do or if you're doing other movements or you have rest after, that determines what you should be thinking about while you're doing that. When you're working at your threshold, the magic happens because we start to push that threshold up and up and up as our fitness improves. So that means if you're doing 5 thrusters in 20 seconds, try to do 6 thrusters in 20 seconds and maintain that over time with minimal rest in between or a set amount of rest in between. Classic training methods and how we can approach our training. If our weight, for example, is a little bit higher, we know we can do 5 reps. If it's a little bit lower, we know we can do 15 reps. Varying thresholds for varying weights, right? So rule number 1, know your threshold in all movements with all loading. Number 2, I want you to understand the intention of what the training session is, right? Now in CrossFit, it's general physical fitness, general physical preparedness. GPP is what we call it. That means that every time we come in the gym, we're going to think about 10 different things, literally 10, right? Speed, power, strength, agility, coordination, endurance, stamina, flexibility, balance, and accuracy. These 10 things combined give us the total package of what it means to be fit. So we're not just strong, we're not just fast, we have a combination of all 10 of these things. And in our classes, in our workouts, we're probably at some point going to be challenging each of these problems that we have, or we can consider them aspects of our fitness or components. So for example, with the thruster again, let's just keep using that. If you're doing a heavy barbell thruster, we have to worry about or think about how strong we are relative to that weight. Can we support the load? Can we move it? with speed and agility? Can we maintain balance as we move through our positions, all the way through the squat, all the way up and overhead? Are we doing it consistently? So are we accurate with our timing and with our positions? Are you hitting the same depth? Are you reaching up overhead? Is the barbell, behind the head, or is it way back, or is it in front? That's your accuracy. And our coordination is coming with the timing. We have our power output, how fast we can do it with that weight. So there's all these different things that we're working in one training session. Now, of course, it's hard to think about all 10 of those things. You don't have to. That's the great thing. You only have to think about how it should feel. And how it should feel is determined by the coach, the stimulus of the workout, like what the coach says you should be feeling, and also how you're feeling that day. Some days I come into the gym and I look at a workout and I'm like, oh man, thrusters again. All right, I don't feel it that day. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to modify a little bit based on how I feel. And it's not because I don't like thrusters or I don't want to do thrusters. It's because I know that, hey, my shoulder's been bugging me a little bit, so maybe I'm not going to go as heavy or as fast. So I'm going to modify a little bit. I'll use the word scale briefly because you guys are afraid of the word scaling. But I'll modify or scale based on how I'm feeling so that I get the best workout that day. Well, I want to ask, what's more important? That you leave your training session feeling like you accomplished something, or leave your training session feeling defeated and beat up because that 135-pound thruster, you only got like 6 reps and then it took you an hour to get the rest? That's not the point of the workout. You lost the stimulus. We can also be thinking about how long it should take when determining that. So how long should this workout take today? A workout like Fran, everybody knows Fran, 21-15-9 thrusters, pull-ups, should be a very fast, very explosive workout. I'd say under 5 minutes is like a good time. Under 3 minutes is a great time. And there are people who do it in under 3 minutes with 95 pounds on the bar with full range of motion pull-ups. The greater the speed, the greater the intensity, of course. So here's what you do. Let's say you are newer to CrossFit and you just learned how to do pull-ups. You just started getting really good at thrusters. So we're going to do a 75-pound barbell for men, and you're going to do half the number of pull-ups. So we're going to cut down the number of pull-ups so that you can do it in less than 5 minutes and be able to move the entire time. On the other side of that, if you do Fran, and yeah, you can do a 95-pound thruster, but it's like you get 3 and then you are going to fail off. Or you can do some pull-ups, but they're all strict and you have to jump off the bar every 10 seconds. And next thing you know it, your Fran time is 11 minutes. I don't think you did Fran there. I think that you did some thrusters, you did some pull-ups, and you're going to leave the gym that day feeling defeated because everyone else finished faster and because you had to break it up and slow it down. And did you really get the benefit of that workout? Are we improving your conditioning that way? Are we improving your speed, your power, your agility, your balance, your coordination? Maybe your strength. That was a good strength training session. And you can do Fran as a strength training session if you set the intention that way. Fran at 135 with strict chest to bar pull-ups is a strength workout. That's a strength training day, and that's like a 20-minute session. Whereas Fran as written is a 5-minute workout. And you're working on your anaerobic system, you're working your engine, right? 2 different concepts. Goes back to your threshold. Know your threshold. Number 3, we're going to work on just one thing at a time. And that doesn't mean that we're working on the burpees right now because they're just burpees, and next we'll work on the pull-ups because they're pull-ups. It means that what component of that burpee should you be thinking about today, just today? So we do this a lot because of all the repetitive movement that we do with the at-home workouts, because we're limited on some equipment, a lot of cyclic movement, a lot of repetition of things like push-ups and burpees and squats and pressing. So we get a lot of practice in these. And each day I give you guys something a little different to think about. So for today in our workout, we did thrusters and we did burpees. For the thrusters, I remember specifically saying, we're gonna work on balance in your thruster today. So where is the weight in relation to your center of balance? And I wanted you to paint a picture in your head. Imagine you were standing, watching yourself move from the side. Can you see if you are balanced through your range of motion? If you can see, like my center of balance, right, is the middle of my body. If I change that center of balance, you can tell, right? You can tell when I change my center of balance. Now I want the weight to be over that center of balance. And that's what we practiced today, and I didn't really care about anything else. Maybe the depth, if you guys want to work on that. Maybe it's the speed out of the bottom. Maybe it's the overhead position. So pick one thing, one aspect of that movement that you are struggling with or that we're working on, and work on it. That being said, your form and your efficiency are always going to trump volume. So if you're able to create intensity using the correct form and doing it efficiently, it's going to give you results much, much, much faster than if you just do for the sake of doing it and you do it all the time. Let's use an example of a pull-up, right? Let's say you want to get better at pull-ups. And every day you jump on your pull-up bar and you do, 50 pull-ups, right? Will that help you develop pull-ups? Maybe. It'll definitely build some resiliency for sure. If we were to maximize our recovery time and maybe change the variations of pull-ups as we go, we might get better results faster. So if you've been stuck at maybe a set of pull-ups, like 10 pull-ups, and every time you do pull-ups, you can only do 10, you can never get that 11th or 12th one, and your goal is to get more pull-ups unbroken, what we need to do is think about the why. Maybe it's the strength, maybe our stamina isn't there for the pull-ups, maybe it's our grip. There's little things. Think about the one thing, right? And also, we're probably not recovering enough. So if you do the same thing every day, right? If you do pull-ups, push-ups, squats every single day, your tissues, your tendons are going to be damaged and never get a chance to heal. So it will lead to weakness in that muscle and weakness in the joint. So when you go for that big set, you're going to fail. This is why we have cycling in strength training. So you wouldn't do back squats every day, right? And you definitely wouldn't squat your 1 rep max every day. So when you go to do back squats, we do percentage-based work, we gradually increase, we progressively overload, and then we do a deload week before we go for a heavier set. So before you go for the 1 rep max, it might be weeks because you've trained and you've deloaded and you've given your muscles the time to recover, your tissues, your tendons and ligaments, time to heal themselves so that the brain can send the correct signal to work harder and produce more effort, more power. All right? We're going to work on our weaknesses as well. This is the last thing. Weaknesses are commonly overlooked in CrossFit, and I want to help you guys determine what your weaknesses actually are. This is a really jaded question because we can think about what our weaknesses are. Yeah, my weakness is back squats because I haven't been able to hit a PR. That's not your weakness, right? One aspect of that, one thing, might be your weakness. Maybe it's the direction that your hips move. Maybe it's that your knees are always collapsing. Maybe it's you always drop your chest. Or it's something completely different, right? Maybe you're the person who can't or haven't been able to do a pull-up yet. Pull-ups are your weakness, right? Or muscle-ups are your weakness. And that's way up here. There are aspects of everything that you can work on even though we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to that level, right? So if you walk in the gym day one and you're like, a little overweight maybe, and you have never been able to do a pull-up, you really want to be able to do a pull-up, we're going to look at the components of the pull-up, we're going to help you lose some weight, and also we're going to start training things outside of your scope a little bit, outside that threshold that you have, like the muscle-up. And there's ways you can break this down and train aspects of the muscle-up in order to get it one day, to eventually get there. So how do we get a muscle up? It's definitely not by jumping on the rings every single day and trying muscle ups. That's a sure way to tear your shoulder. It's, okay, maybe I should work on the pull and make sure I can get here every single time, right? Know your threshold in all movement. Fix it. Fix the imbalances. Fix the things that are holding you back. Work the weaknesses and see everything explode, and all of a sudden you guys can do all these things. Nothing we do in this gym is impossible for anyone. It's all relative to where you are right now and where you want to be and where you are in your mind, in your head, right? So guys, that's the athlete's mindset that I wanted to touch on a little bit today. And I hope this helped with some ideas for the next workout you do and how to approach your training. Feel free to drop some comments below and let us know what your thoughts are and what questions you have, and I'll see you on the next one.